Welcome, welcome. We're going to be grading some Apolog footage today. This is footage from my last episode on my iPhone 15 Pro camera rig. Here is the finished graded look. We'll go to the color page and I'll show you what I've been doing. First thing I did was add all of these to a group. To make a new group, you can just go add into new group and then you write one, but I already had a group right here of Apolog. Put it into the group, and then when you make a group, there are up here, you can find the group pre-clip, the clip, the group post-clip, and then the timeline if you want to make an adjustment to everything. So if you ever have footage in a certain color space or you're working with multiple color spaces, it's good to have a group with that color space. So before, I put in a color space transform in the group pre-clip. So for Apolog, you're working with the input color space of Rec 2020, then you're working with the input gamma of Apolog, and then I'm working with everything in DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate for my working color space. In the pre-clip, I've turned it from Rec 2020 and Apolog into the DaVinci color space. The post-clip, I start with the DaVinci color space, and then I turn everything into Rec 709 and Gamma 2.4. And then the majority of my grading happens inside the clip grading. It's pretty simple. I'll start by turning everything off for this grade. So this is what it looked like when it just was converted into Rec 709. It's pretty glary. So then the first thing I did was adjust the white balance, which went from this kind of cooler, more magenta to a kind of greenish warm. Then I did parallel nodes for these three, and I adjusted the exposure. This was a pretty big one, which made it go from this washed out to more dark. I kind of made the shadows darker, I made the gamma a little bit darker, and I made the gain lighter. I noticed with a lot of the Apolog clips, making the gain lighter was an important step. Then I balanced out the colors. So with this, it was just a little bit of balance. If you can see in here, before it's kind of a little bit warm magenta-y. I wanted some cooler shadows a little bit. As you can see, I kind of pushed the shadows into the bluish green. I pushed the gamma to be a little bit warmer, pushed the gain to be a little bit warmer, and then I moved to saturation. And this was just a little boost. Before the saturation, you see it's a little washed out. It's still pretty good. And then after the saturation, just a little bit of a boost. And then to target specific colors at the end, I changed curves. For the hue, I turned those kind of yellows and pushed them a little bit more bluish from the kind of yellowy green. So that's how I worked on that clip. So I noticed a problem initially with this clip, which is when I was using the ND filter, on some of the clips, I got this kind of warm spot in the middle. It wasn't with every clip. So this last clip, I didn't even adjust for that warm spot because I looked kind of fine the whole way through. This clip, I found a very strong warm spot in the middle. If you see, if I've turned off my adjustment for it, it's very warm in the middle. So I corrected for that. So we'll start all over. We'll actually start with the exposure, which I think kind of made the biggest change. This was with just the exposure adjustment without the white balance. And then we changed the white balance, a little bit more green. It looked a little bit more lifelike. This kind of looked a little bit magenta-y, bluish, a little bit washed out. Then we'll change the balance. A lot of the balance is a little bit to taste, some bluer shadows. I thought it added some nice contrast, and then some saturation to push everything more saturated. But you still see that there's this dark hotspot. For this, I made a power window over here that reduced that kind of center hotspot I was noticing and cooled it down. The before, this is the after. That made a big effect on the image. And at the very end, I used these curves at the end to adjust specific colors. So for this one, I made the kind of yellows a little bit more green. And then for this one, I was affecting kind of the red color here. Felt like a little bit of spill from that hotspot, so I just dampened that a little bit, just made a small effect. Before, after. I started with the exposure, kind of to add that contrast, add more definition. White balance, felt like this was kind of bluish, a little magenta, so I wanted a little bit greener, warmer look. Then a balance, felt like this was a little too yellowy. I made gain a little bit red, lifting the shadows a little bit down, added some saturation. The saturation kind of really brought out a lot of the yellows. And then I was targeting specific colors. So we have the first curve. I was getting the green. I felt like these greens were very yellow. So I wanted to make them a little bit more blue. The second one, I felt like there was still a lot of yellow, kind of reddish tint I was feeling was a little bit yellowy. Again, a little subtle Changing the bark, you can see a little bit redder from the yellows. Final thing I did on this one was adjust the sky. I used a qualifier, so if you can see, it was really just trying to qualify the sky area. Before this, it was still in some places a little yellow, so I wanted to make that more blue. Here's the whole grade. So that's essentially how I graded this.